All right. Welcome back to Practify, the podcast where we go inside the minds of private practice owners who've successfully scaled their practice and are open to sharing the strategies and mindset behind their growth. Today's guest is Nicola Vaughan, a nutritional therapist who's built Envy Health into a business that stretches far beyond private consults. She created Future Strong, a well-being program delivered in schools and companies while still running her one-to-ones and group work. Nicola's shown that you can take a practice, build programs around it, and even step onto corporate stages, creating both impact and freedom. So without further ado, Nicola, welcome to the show.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction. It's a real pleasure to be here.
So, Nicola, before we dive into the business side of things, I'd love to start with your story. Every practitioner listening has their own journey into this field, and I think it's super powerful to hear how others started out and grew theirs. So, I
Yeah.
guess first things first, Nicola, what inspired you to become a nutritional therapist?
No, so you're absolutely right. Everybody generally has got a personal story as to how they get into something like this. So mine was very personal. It involved my child. So I was actually a physicist before I became a nutritional therapist. So I was working in the aerospace industry, dealing with radar issues and things like that. Loving it. I loved physics. I loved science. But then when I had my second child, my eldest was 3, and he developed an autoimmune condition. He developed rheumatoid arthritis, a juvenile idiopathic arthritis. And the idiopathic bit in the middle just means that the doctors don't really know why it happens. And I remember having a conversation with the rheumatologist. I knew nothing about nutrition. I followed what I thought was like a healthy lifestyle, a healthy diet for my 2 very young children, but I didn't know about nutritional therapy. And I remember the conversation with the rheumatologist at one of the top hospitals in London who was looking after my son. And he just said, like, we don't know why it happens, it's just bad luck. And it just, as a scientist, that really didn't sit well with me. I was like, it's not bad luck. Like, the body is creating this super inflammatory condition for reasons, and we need to work out what those reasons are if we're going to try and help him, rather than going on from trying this steroid and then you get onto disease modifying drugs. And I was not too keen on the prospect of that pathway for him as a 3-year-old. But he was clearly stuck. He needed help. So we went down that route of medication to address the chronic issue that was presenting to us. But at the same time, I started really looking into what is within my control as a mum. What else could I do? And I reached out and started working with a nutritional therapist myself, because I was like, there's got to be, another way of addressing this. And that was absolutely brilliant and opened my eyes to the functional approach to health. So rather than treating symptoms with medication, it opened my world as to, how do you go about trying to work out the root cause of disease? And that's what triggered my career change. I had an opportunity to stop my work. We moved overseas and I was no longer able to do all my radar stuff. So it gave me this opportunity to say, do you know what? Let's just go in full on in terms of retraining. So I went back to school. I went back to school, nearly 40 years of age. I went back to school. So I did a level 6 diploma with the British College of Nutritional Health, which I was able to do whilst I was overseas. It was an online course. And I have never looked back. I graduated from that in 2022, and it's been, I feel like I've found my true my true calling, in doing this. And I love it, because nutritional therapy is very scientific. It's not woo woo. It's very much mechanism driven, and you've got to be a health detective to try to pick apart chronic chronic health conditions. And so I feel like I'm still doing my science. And I very much look at it in that with that perspective. And going back to my son, he's nearly 15 now. He's in the rugby team. He's got no sign of disease at all. So we were able to, kick his autoimmunity to touch, and he's been in remission for best part of 8 years now, which is amazing. So yeah, all good. Even if I never ever helped anybody else, that's fine. I've got a touch wood, like a healthy child. So I'm very grateful for that.
And if we had to take back the times, let's say to 2022, you've just graduated, you're just getting into private practice, kind of paint the picture for us. Like, what did that transition look like from the moment you graduated to actually starting up your own practice?
Yeah, and this is I think graduating is really tough, because it takes years to get to that point, and you are learning so much in that time. You feel that you have got so much to give. You have so much knowledge, and you just look all around you of all the people that you can help. And you feel like you're just ready to go. People should be there banging on your door saying, yeah, I need you. I want to help you. And the reality is very different. The reality is you come out of that education period and it's like nobody knows you. You have to build up your build awareness for all the people around you that this is what nutritional therapy is. This is how I can help you. You have to be in the forefront of people's minds. And it was a real anticlimax graduating, if I'm honest with you, because you feel like you have got so much to give. You feel as if everybody should be knocking on your door and tapping into your knowledge so you can help them. And that's not the reality. The reality is that you have to get word out there. People have to have you in their mind when they've got their tummy troubles, when they're having difficulty sleeping, when they've got their heavy periods, when they've got their breakouts of psoriasis. They have to be thinking, I remember now, I know somebody who's a nutritional therapist and nutrition can help with that. It's so a huge anticlimax actually graduating, because nothing in your education for the 4 years prior really gears you up to, getting out there and making a living out of it. You learn the mechanisms, you learn how to interpret research papers so that you're evidence-based. You learn all the science behind nutrition, and nobody really teaches you how to make a good business out of this. And that's where you've got to be, you've got to think differently about business. It's not easy.
So that's the thing, right? Like, and I feel like every practitioner goes through this. Like, as you said, you go to school, you learn the science, you learn exactly how to treat these patients, but now it's like you graduate and you actually have to put the services that you've learned in front of these patients, right? So it's like, you go from just being a clinician to being like a clinician and business owner. So I guess, Nicola, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you were making that shift, where you're at that weird purgatory where you had to go from clinician to business owner?
Yeah, and it's really scary. It's scary, maybe the wrong word. It's you're full of self-doubt, because you're outside of, in your final year of practice, certainly with BCNH, my college, your final year, excuse me, of training is clinic. So you see 4 people over that period of time, and you're under supervision of your supervisors, within the college. So you're doing the consultations, you're being assessed with the consultations, and then you get feedback straight away afterwards. You could have done that better. This was great. And that's really reassuring. You then get out into the world and you start with your friends and your family, don't you? Because they're the people that have been with you on that journey for the last 4 years. They're the people that know, and you're speaking to regularly whilst you're training, saying, I'm learning this, and this is really interesting, and this could help you with that. And so when you graduate, they're the people that you go to first to say, right, do you remember we were having those conversations? I actually now can help you. Let's, work together. But you're without that safety net of doing it. You're doing your Zoom one-to-one with a friend or a family member, because those will be the first people that you work with. It's not going to be a random person off the street. It's going to be the first people that you will come into contact with are trusted people, which is great. It's a nice way to start. But you're without that safety net of a supervisor to be able to say, you did that great, or that could have been done a little better. You're out there on your own. You carve the way in which you want to run those consultations to however you want to do it. And so that's difficult to do, but it's very necessary just to start. Don't procrastinate. Don't think, I'm not ready for this yet. You've just got to start. And those first few consultations might be a little bit rubbish, but they're better than no consultation. You've got so much more knowledge than the layperson. You will be helping them. And you will be getting better the more that you do, but you've just got to start, whether it's your friends, your family, referrals from friends and family. That's how it begins generally. That's how I began anyway.
Looking back on your career so far, is there anything that you regret doing? Or if you could go back in time now, is there anything that you would have done slightly differently?
I think I probably would have done less additional training courses in my first year of graduating. There is this real feeling, because you graduate, you go onto the forums of other practitioners, and you look at the kind of questions that are being asked and being answered on those practitioner forums. And I remember feeling, oh, good Lord, I'm really inadequate. I really don't know. I don't think I would be able to answer all those questions. You feel like you need to do more training. And I got really sucked into that in that first year. I got sucked into thinking, oh, I probably do need some extra training on probiotic strains that I should be using for IBS. I probably do need some extra training on, how to, and you don't. To start, you don't. And so that would be, I don't regret it, because I enjoy, I kind of really enjoy learning things, so that's fine. But I should have had more self-belief that actually I knew my stuff. I did. And arguably, a practitioner who has just qualified is the most up to date. It's the most up to date you'll ever be. You've been given the last 4 years of super up to date current knowledge. So arguably, you're the ones that really don't need the additional training. Just get out there and start. So it's, yeah. But other than that, I feel like it's been a great journey. I've grown and grown over the last 3 years, which has been really fantastic.
Nicola, one of the things that really stands out about your journey is the way you've diversified beyond one-to-one consults, right? A lot of practitioners obviously want to do this, but they either don't know where to start, or they just believe it's not realistic, right? It's too overwhelming. They kind of ignore it, put it behind them. What do you think drives those myths? Like, why do you think practitioners have those beliefs about scaling beyond traditional one-to-ones?
Mm. I think it's because traditional one-to-ones is all we do when we are training. It's our comfort area, and it's what we know really works. So, practitioners are results driven, or they should be, or I am at least anyway, results driven. I want to see improvements in my clients. I want to see them have improvement in their health by working with me. And if they're not, then obviously I'm not doing my job properly, and I need to kind of go down different avenues. And so I think there is that feeling that, that's what we need to be doing. Whereas we have got so much knowledge, which actually scaling outside of one-to-one work, one-to-one work is super important, absolutely. But there's not always a need for one-to-one truly personalized nutrition. There is so much nonsense out there on social media, so much confusion, so much noise, that by offering things like group community talks, I did a talk just last night to a school, for example, it's a really good way of imparting your knowledge in a way that has got authority, because you're talking in an area that you know a lot about, and you know so much more than the rest of the group, the audience, if you like. That's why they're asking you to come and talk to them. That you don't need to be helping somebody one-to-one in order to help people. And I think that's we're not taught during our training, we're not taught that actually your knowledge itself is really valuable, and is valuable on a scale. And people will pay for you to impart that knowledge so that they can maybe take 2 or 3 things away from your talk and make some changes. And yes, one-to-one work often comes from that, which is brilliant, right? It's a sales funnel, if you like. But there is huge benefit in doing that. Get a few niche talks, things that you're really comfortable talking about, and impart that knowledge. You're not trying to help people individually one-to-one. You're just helping set a scene, show people how nutrition can help for some very specific health conditions. And from that, there will come one-to-one work. So I think that we're just not taught it. We're only taught in our degree about doing one-to-one personalized, nutrition. And it's so much more than that. People need so much more than that and benefit from it. It's good. It's really good.
Can you walk us through what Future Strong is firstly, just like a super high level overview? And then
Yeah.
and then after you've done that for me, if you could please answer the question of what kind of gave you the confidence to actually design Future Strong and be able to put it out there and push it out there as a program?
Okay. So Future Strong is a 28-day program that I've developed, which is around metabolic health. I have, for the last probably 7 years, I've been super fascinated by metabolic health. That is that characteristic of insulin resistance, cardiometabolic health, really, but underpinning it, insulin resistance, chronic issues, everywhere you look, pretty much, people could benefit by getting their metabolic health in order. And because I find that area so interesting, and I appreciate, for women in particular, that they don't get how important it is that we are strong, that we have built muscle tissue as a major metabolic health organ. Women are not the ones who are lifting heavy weights in the gym, and that needs to change. And so I developed Future Strong, targeted at women, to bust those myths around weightlifting. So I work with an online coach that provides that aspect of it, because building muscle tissue is so important for longevity. And then I thought, I'm going to put in all the education modules over those 4 weeks to really inspire people as to why it's important to, get insulin under control. Why is it important? How to read lipid panels, because cholesterol, so many myths around cholesterol. So it's like an education piece tied in with being strong, and why it is so important to be strong at any age. I've had 75-year-olds start this program. So so that's why that's what Future Strong is, and why I did it is because I wanted to find a way of, I mentioned talks of being a really good way of getting knowledge out there. Many people couldn't afford to work one-to-one. To pay £500 for a program for a few sessions, it's out of the budget of a lot of people. So I wanted to develop something where it was more budget friendly and people could really learn from me so that they could just try and do things themselves, so there's no one-to-one work involved in it, but it is me communicating with these small, I don't do massive groups. They're relatively small groups so that I can provide that kind of, they're getting me, they're getting me for those 4 weeks, but it's in a group setting. And that's why I did it. Metabolic health is such a passion of mine, and just wanting to help more people, get that information out there to more than just, people that can work one-to-one. And it's great. I'm about to do my third one starting next week on Monday, my third little group. And it's really people, I get fantastic feedback from it. It's people learning lessons for life. It's really inspiring to see how people's habits change over just 4 weeks. It's very rewarding, very rewarding to do.
Nicola, on that note of putting the message out there, right? How did you kind of first land your initial opportunities with any schools or company? Like, was it outreach? Was it networking? Like, what was your mechanism behind that?
Yeah, you've just got to get out there. So you've got to, people don't know you exist, or they know you exist, they don't know what you have to offer. So we think we've just graduated, we've got a really good degree, people are going to come to me, right? They're going to come because they want to tap into my knowledge. And that's the furthest from the truth. Actually, the only way they're going to know about you is going and talking to people, or you talk to parents at schools that you might know. So start in your network first of all and say, hey, would you like me to do a talk on ADHD and nutrition? Would you like me to do a talk on ultra processed foods for kids and how to read labels? Would you like me to do a talk on, you name it, gut health, menopause, whatever? Schools are brilliant. If you've got children, you go to the school that your children are at first. It's a nice environment. The teachers know you. And that's a really good starting point. And once you've done a few talks for schools, you've got referrals, and schools are in a network and schools talk to one another. So it's really nice, you do everything you can do on Zoom now, and they can record it and send it out to their parents. And it's yet more ways of getting your name out there. The other things that I've started to do, which I think is again great, and talks are really good. You just have to kind of not worry about it. Believe in yourself that you've got all this knowledge, and you will know more than a lay person about whatever topic it is you choose to do. But if you can find a really nice local independent supplement store, that's another great one, because the people that are going to go into a health food shop or a supplement store, they're the people that are interested in their health. So pick a topic. I did one on busting some cholesterol myths, and it was packed. 30 people attended it. If we fill this little shop, we fill the little shop. And, from that comes one-to-one work. If you do a good job, but your name's getting out there. So, yeah. And, just on that as well, social media is really, if you don't like it, maybe it's not for you. But for me, it was a game changer. I stepped outside of my comfort zone, got myself an Instagram account, and just find what works for you for getting your message out there. People need to have you in their mind that you are somebody that can help them with their issues. They're not going to, they're not going to just think about you if you're not there in their, in their feed, for example. You have to be in their mind. So yeah, social media has been really important part of my growth without any doubt. And it wasn't something that I was really comfortable doing at the beginning, but you just got to think, do you know what? Like, just get out there, just do it. Don't worry about it.
Nicola, how do you go about pricing your different services in these different spaces? Like, obviously, you've got the one-to-ones, then the group stuff, and then also the corporate stuff. What does your price and structure and modules kind of look like? Not in terms of giving exact quantifiable numbers, but more so like, how do you structure it to make sure, one, it you're being paid your value, like you're being paid what you're worth, but at the same time making it somewhat affordable and reachable for people who actually need your services?
Mm. Well, do you know, you've got to kind of look at the market as well. You know, it's what do other practitioners charge? I put all of my rates on my website so anybody can look to see what it is that I charge for my packages. Um, but it's not easy. Pricing's not easy, and you can't price. You know, I worked it out initially by thinking to myself, you know, what would be a market rate, a market hourly rate, and you work it out like that. And I work in my one-to-one work, I really encourage people wherever possible to do packages of a minimum of 4 sessions, because if somebody's come to you to do one-to-one work, but they only want to pay for 1 session, it's just, you're not going to transform somebody's health in 1 session. Packages are the way to go, minimum of 4 sessions, because otherwise they're not going to see any health benefit. They won't see that their health is improving with 1 session. So they're not going to then rave about your services because they haven't seen any improvement, but yet they've only paid for 1 session. So you have to, you know, you look at it and you think, right, well, what is a reasonable amount to charge for, say, 4 sessions? And then work out what you want your hourly rate to be. And your hourly rate for doing one-to-one work is going to be higher than if you were working for, you know, if you were employed. Because you also have to consider within that, you've got all the other stuff, you know, they fill in their intake form. You then review their intake form before you have your initial consultation. You know, you might spend time, quite a bit of time. You might want to research. It might be some health conditions that you've not really up to date with. You'll need to do some research around that as well. So your hourly rate is higher than if you were working, you know, and you've got, you know, regular income stream. And that's something for people to get their head over. You know, don't put your hourly rate too low when you're doing one-to-one work, because it's not just that hour that you've got on Zoom in front of somebody, it's all of the rest of the prep time, the write-up time, and you'll become slicker at doing the write-ups in time. Definitely, you know, I used to take hours writing up and now I'm much quicker. But you know, it's I would say you've got, depending, you know, geographically where you are, the country that you're in, you know, what are other practitioners charging for these kind of services, and put yourself around about the same. You know, I do feel that that's, you know, but we always have got that feeling of like, yeah, you want to, you've got knowledge that's important and valuable to people, so don't undersell yourself. People will pay £120 for a plumber to come out to fix some taps. You know, they can pay 120 quid for you to help them with a health issue, but it's a mentality, and it's really hard. It's really, really difficult, because in the UK, at least, we have the National Health Service, which means that generally people get health advice for free. So the concept of paying for helping with a bowel issue or a skin issue, you know, it's alien to a lot of people. But you have to have that conviction yourself that actually you're worth it. You are worth it. Think of all the training that you've done. Think of all of the extra training you continue to do. You're constantly investing in your knowledge, and that is worth something. So don't be, if anything, put your prices up. So, yeah.
Nicola, before we get a bit more into the business mechanics, I've got a quick game for you called This or That. I'm going to give you
Okay.
two options and you've got to pick one, but just give your true gut reaction. No
Okay.
overthinking and no
All right.
explaining. All right.
Okay. Yeah, got
All
it.
right. Okay. One-to-one consults or group programs?
Oh, that's really hard. One to one will always win for me. But I'd love to do more group programs. That's not an answer, is it? Sorry.
Instagram or LinkedIn for marketing?
Depends what you want to do. Instagram for me, but if you want to get into the corporate world, LinkedIn, 100%.
Pitching a corporate or launching a new course?
Launching a new course.
Early mornings or late nights for work?
Early mornings.
Creating content or delivering talks?
Delivering talks.
Patient results or business growth?
Patient results.
And then our last one is systems and structure or flexibility and flow?
Flexibility and flow.
There we
I
go.
would hate to analyze my responses. Good Lord.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's really hard. I've not done a huge amount of corporate work. I would love to do corporate work, but I I haven't really. I mean, I've done some corporate talks, which has been really great, and I've enjoyed that a lot. Um, but I don't know. I it's having had a career in corporate world, I work for a major aerospace and defense company. I've done consulting work. I'm really at ease in a boardroom. I was the COO of a company. I'm very comfortable in that environment. And yet somehow I feel more connected with talking to parents. I feel more connected doing that kind of education piece rather than going in to a boardroom and talking about stress or talking about. I've done talks on sleep. I've done, talks on ADHD in the workplace. It's great and I enjoy it, but I find the parent connection, maybe it's because I'm a parent, and I resonate more now as a parent rather than a corporate employer. Um, I find that for me is so I'm always drawn more to schools and communities than I am to the corporate world. But that's not to say that I wouldn't turn down corporate work, but it's not an area I'm actively pursuing. And that's an individual choice. It's can be really great for business growth. If you want to go into corporate work, there is a huge market there. Um, so yeah, go for it. Go for it if you feel like that's for you.
Nicola, we've obviously spoken about your journey and the opportunities that you've created, right? But what I want to do is kind of take listeners behind the scenes of how your business actually works, right? Because it's one thing to have a vision, but another to structure it so that it runs smoothly. So, looking back, which marketing approaches have actually brought in clients consistently? I know you touched on social media, but just
Mm,
just dive a bit deeper into that for us.
mm. Yeah, I mean it I think where I'm seeing a lot of referrals come through, and referrals are brilliant because referrals mean that somebody thinks you're awesome. Somebody has seen results by working with you and has enjoyed that process so much that they are then shouting about you to other people. That is so much more valuable than you shouting about your own worth. Getting referrals the is like the ultimate goal, really. And where I find those to be the most valuable is where it is referrals from either parents or referrals from other practitioners who are in a parallel space. So I work quite a lot in supporting children, largely with ADHD, helping kids get back to school who maybe are not in school at the minute because of their health challenges. So by having referrals from psychiatrists that have seen some of my reports, that have seen how I work with genetics, that have seen results from their own psychiatry patients, psychiatrists being like a parallel, complementary space to what I'm doing, those referrals are, you couldn't buy those kind of referrals. It is so much more valuable than growth via social media, because they're heartfelt and they are evidence driven referrals. And your discovery call with somebody where they've had a referral from a psychiatrist that has said, I think you really need some extra support around nutrition. The discovery calls are so simple to do because they've already been convinced, and they just then need to meet you and say, yep, you're the one for me. I know you can help me. So making your network broader outside of other nutrition practitioners, if you want to go into the world of, ADHD, getting your name out there with other kind of complementary therapies that are also working in that space as something you could be allied in is really, really helpful. For my Future Strong program, getting referrals from other personal trainers who work already in the space of, helping people build muscle. But actually, do you know what? Nutrition is really lacking. You need to go and do this Future Strong program to really understand the nutrition basics of what we're trying to do. Having those referrals, find whatever the niche is. If you don't have a niche, that's totally fine. I didn't have a niche. I don't have a niche. I've just got interested areas. But getting referrals from other professionals who are in that space that see the value of, well, nutrition has to go hand in hand with this, is really good. So build that network. We're not in competition with one another. We support one another. And so that, it would be the number one bit of advice. And you need to just get out there and talk to people so that they know that you exist. You can't just sit in your office and just pray that they're going to find you. You have to, whether it's writing letters or emails, contacting them, finding your local groups on LinkedIn, finding your local groups on social media, on Instagram, reaching out to them, start liking their posts, start commenting on their posts, and they'll be like, oh, you're also local. Okay, I do that as well. This is how nutrition can support you. Why don't we have a conversation with them? Just have a Zoom, half an hour Zoom as an intro. Tell them what you can do. It's so important that people know you exist. You're not going to know you're there unless you are making noise about it.
Nicola, what tools or systems do you have in place that help you manage multiple offers without ever experiencing burnout?
So there are a number of platforms out there, really. The one that I use is called Practice Better, and I could not run my group programs without it. I could not run my one-to-one works without it. And it helps me be GDPR compliant. So I don't store anybody's personal data. So it's all stored on my practice management software. And it is invaluable because for running my group programs, I set everything up once. And then when I run another cohort, the information is all just there. It's just a case of kind of refreshing what needs to be refreshed, changing the dates and getting that all set up again. I did a group fast last week before last. where 17 people did a fast with me for 5 days. Again, I ran it all through Practice Better, super simple to do. I've got everybody's information there. They sign up there. All your forms are there. It's the only way. And when you've got, you're on your 100th client, there's no way you will remember like what supplements you had recommended, what nutrition you've been telling them to do, what medications they're on, unless you've got a really robust practice management software. You won't remember. So it's really setting time aside and thinking big. Don't start off thinking I can just manage all this with Google Sheets. Even if you've just got 2 or 3 clients when you begin, think big. Know that you will have 100 clients at some point and you're going to need to scale up. So just scale up from the get-go. Think big. Don't confine yourself into what you're doing at the minute when you're just beginning and you don't have many clients. Don't think, well, I can manage all of this just with, set up your filing system, set up your practice management software to go big, because then you'll fill it. You will, you will grow. You will grow, and then you'll appreciate not having to redo everything because you had underestimated how successful you were going to be. Yeah, but Practice Better is brilliant, and it integrates with so many things that we have here in the UK with the Natural Dispensary for supplements, for that clean life, for recipe ideas. It's a brilliant tool and it is worth it. 100%. Yeah, I wouldn't be lost without it.
One of the biggest themes that keeps coming up on this podcast is mindset, right? Scaling a practice obviously isn't just about systems or offers. It also boils down to how you see yourself as a practitioner, number one, and then also as a business owner, number two. So, Nicola, I'd love to hear what shifts you had to make along the way, not only externally, but more specifically internally, for you to be the best version of yourself.
That's such a poignant question because we've all got very different personalities, and we're not, some practitioners go into nutritional therapy and are so empathetic and so caring and have got so much to give, and that practitioner is going to have a very different goal, perhaps, in terms of growth than one who is really driven to make their business grow. And so much is personality driven. This is a really difficult. You have to kind of don't try and be somebody that you're not. If you are somebody who is like, I'm really competitive. You might have got that. I'm super competitive and I've got big aspirations. And so when I say I'm competitive, I want to really, really do well. So I've got that kind of inner spark of being the best that I can be. I feel like I've got loads to give. I feel like I've got more to do in terms of like taking my practice far. But that's very personality driven. That's just me, and maybe like makes me a little bit cuckoo, but I think that that's great. I think for what I'm trying to do, I think that works really well. But if that's not you, there'll be other ways of being successful. So that's a very difficult one to answer because I think it's so much is personality driven, and different personality types have all got so much to offer in terms of helping one-to-one work or group work in nutritional therapy. Everybody doesn't have to be the super driven, going out there and getting 100 clients. Everybody doesn't, you don't have to be successful to do that. That doesn't have to be your metric. It's like there'll be other environments, there'll be other ways of really, helping people. Because there's loads of, different people will respond better. And some people really don't like online working. Some people really actually just want to go to a practice and sit face to face with somebody. Well, online working really works for me. So we're all different, and I think every practitioner needs to find their style that works for them, so that they're not trying to be because if you try and be somebody that you're not, because you feel as if, well, that's the only way to be successful, you won't be happy, and that will reflect in your practice. It will reflect how you come across if you're just not happy because you're trying to be somebody that you're not. So find find the way, find the style that works for you. Don't try and be somebody that you're not. Yeah.
I just want to quickly touch on consistency. What daily habits or routines do you have in place to once again allow you to be the best version of yourself and just ensure that the practice continuously grows?
So I think that setting a clear timetable for the day really helps for me. So I block out periods of time where I know I want to dedicate to certain things, whether it's making content for social media. I don't do a lot of that. I generally fit that in with what I'm doing. So, my social media content, which is really important to me, is largely when I'm out doing my dog walk in the morning. That's what works for me. I have to get my movement in the mornings. I do strength training every morning, and then I go and I breakfast with the kids, and I take the kids to school, and then I go on a dog walk for 45 minutes every single day. And it's in that time that I do my social media recording of whatever it is that I want to talk about for the day. So that then the day then gets set with, and this is the beauty of working for yourself. You set your times when you want people to be able to work one-to-one with you. So you set your blocks of when that needs to be. And then outside of that time, you block off periods of time where you're going to be, making sure you've got time to do your write-ups, making sure that, you don't want to have back-to-back-to-back sessions. You need breathing space in between. You want to be able to write up quite quickly after having done the client consultation. So it's all fresh in your mind. Just get it done, not to dwell on things for too much. So structured, but this is where practice management software really comes into its own. You're able to do that. You can carve out your time. And, keep time that needs to be precious, keep that time precious. If you're self-employed, like most of us are as practitioners, it's great to be able to kind of put blocks of time aside to you want to go and develop some online course. You do that through, setting a time and saying, right, between 2 and 4, I'm going to now do, I'm going to do some work on PowerPoint so that I can get some slides together so that then I can build an online, something that somebody can just, kind of watch and repeat. So yeah, I think it's using your calendar, and for me that works really well, because if I'm not structured, things don't work. So like, for example, today I know I've got my group program starting on Monday. I need to finish doing some recipes so that I want to get my 30-gram protein recipes all, together. I'm going to do that. I'm going to write up from a client that I saw last night that I need to write up. Just book the time in so that time is there. People can't book it and take place of that. But you're not going to get too burned out because you manage your time. People can only book when you're available. So yeah, use a calendar.
There we go. Nicola, I'd love for you to share what your work looks like today and the different ways that you're supporting people right now. So just super high level, what are the main offers that you currently run?
Okay. So the main offers I've got so the fasting program, the group, I love doing group work because it is a nice way of scaling up and for more people to access health and nutrition. So the fasting group that I ran last week was very successful. And so I have a wait list, which is a form that people complete on via Practice Better for the next one that's going to be running in January. So I've got that kind of on the go. That's a very low cost way of working with me. I've got my Future Strong program that is running for the third time next week, and people can access that, and that will be running again in February. So I've got, those are my two group programs that I've got going on. One-to-one work is groups of packages of programs. Most people choose 4, sometimes people choose 6 programs to work with me there. I've got that's available, and regularly, probably I get 2 to 3 new clients every week on that, people signing up for new packages, which is brilliant. Word is getting out, and that's a nice way of just keeping things ticking over. I've also got some test packages. So sometimes people just want to work, they just want to do a genetic test, or they just want to do a stool test. So some people just want to have a test and an interpretation of that. So people can book that if they like as well. And once you're really familiar with a certain number of tests, so I only use one stool test because I don't want to learn again and again and again, different, interpreting different stool tests. So I use the GI map. So I've got the GI map stool test. There's a Dutch test if people want to do hormone testing. And then I use LifeCode GX for all of their DNA tests. I know them really well now. I've run so many of them. I'm really familiar with them. Hair tissue mineral analysis tests as well. So, have those tests that you've got that people, and tell people about them. And sometimes people just want to do a test and an interpretation. And that's a simple kind of little package that I do as well. So those are the packages that I have. And then I've got my talks. So talks are ones, I've got 4 or 5 subjects that I know really well. I've got presentations that I've already written. They're good to go. Dust them off. See if there's anything kind of new that's come up that you might need to kind of put in. Maybe some new graphics, maybe some research papers that are, interesting. Get those ready, and then reach out and say to your local supplement store or to your local school, hey, why don't we get a date in the diary for a Thursday evening, coming up in October, and just book them, just get them booked up. And then, you just got to kind of do deep breath, go in, do it. Don't think too much about it. And it's just an easy way to just do your marketing and you're getting your name out there, which is really important. So yeah, that's what I've got. And I always keep on top of CPD, continual professional development. So I'm attending today, for example, a masterclass on chronic pain management. So I feel like it's an area I see quite a bit in my practice, and I want to be up to date with the latest literature. So, it's a few hours out of my day, really excited to learn, new things about that. And I'll be able to take that and I'll tell people I'm doing it. When you're doing CPD, tell people, get it on social media, tell people that you're going to be going and learning about this, because you know what? It might be something that they're struggling with. And they then know that you're up to date with the latest information about it. So just, getting known out there is the key thing, really. If people don't know you exist, they're never going to come to you. You've got to be in their mind.
Where can people learn more about what you have to offer, which you just covered, and connect with you directly?
Cool, yeah. So my website is NV for Nicola Vaughan, nvhealth.co.uk. And there I've got my Future Strong program information and all the info about the packages that I offer, and the different ways of working with me. And I think on your website, when it comes to doing your website, I did mine myself, super easy to do. Maybe it's because I'm a physicist and I love that kind of thing, but you don't need a complicated website. When you're starting out, people just need to know what it is that you can offer and to be really clear and simple. So my website has got all the info, nvhealth.co.uk. And on Instagram and Facebook, I'm NV Health UK. So I'm there, and I regularly post on Instagram mainly, and on LinkedIn as well. I think I'm Nick Vaughan underscore on Instagram. Sorry, on LinkedIn. But yeah, I'd be happy, and if practitioners want to have a chat, I'm here. I was newly qualified as well, not that long ago, a few years ago now. But if they want to chat, I'm happy to have a chat with people as well.
Nicola, before we wrap up, I've got one last quick game for you called Complete the Sentence. I'll
Okay.
start a sentence and you finish it with the first thing that comes to mind. Does that sound
All
good?
right. Yeah, okay.
All right. The best piece of advice I ever received was
Just get out there. Don't overthink it.
one thing I wish I knew earlier in my career is
That I have got so much knowledge and I know so much more than the person on the street who's not done a nutrition qualification.
the part of my work that lights me up the most is,
Client feedback.
and our final one, success to me means.
uh oh God. um well, it's having money in the bank, definitely, um yeah, making it work financially as a business has been great. Yeah, really good.
Nicola, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. What I love about your story is how you've shown practitioners that growth isn't limited to the consulting room. So, for everyone listening, I hope that this episode has given you both the inspiration and the practical steps to start thinking bigger about what's actually possible in your practice. So, to you, Nicola, it's been a real pleasure having you on Practify. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all in the next one.